Hey Romulo, so I'm glad that you've written another set of essays for us. I took a look at your questions that you wrote in your essays, so why don't we address those first, okay, before we actually get into your essay correction. So, your essays are around 330, 350 words. I think I said this before when I corrected your previous set, that I am okay with that as long as you have enough time to write both your essays. Okay. You mentioned here typos. I haven't noticed, or at least not that I remember, any typos that I thought would create a problem for you. Of course, I don't know if you're still using spell check when you type your answers. I hope not. This is something you should probably turn off if your word processing software has a spell check. Make sure you turn it off so you are aware of exactly what kind of typos you are making. Let's see. Aiming for around 300 words is also okay. I want to read this essay and tell you what I think you could have left out, because I see that this is what you're saying here. This is a really interesting question. Now, a few things about the template. The template is really there to guide you and to give you some structure to make sure that you're including all of the important elements that should be included in your essay. However, as you get more comfortable writing and as you progress further in the course, I think that it's implied that you're going to change it around a little bit. You're going to adapt it and make it a little more individual for your writing, for your style, and of course to fit different types of essays. That said, could you leave this last sentence out? Yeah, I mean, if you think that it's wasting precious time for you and that you could spend that time checking your essays, I guess you could leave it out. Where is it? Yeah, so for example, here when you just say, I strongly feel that the advantages of doing so do not overcome the drawbacks, and then just go into your essay, yeah, you could do that. I mean, I know that I've seen that happen a trillion times. So you essentially could do this. All right? There may be some people who say, yes, well, this does contain really important information that guides the examiner as to how you're going to develop your answer by saying this thing about Arizona, saying this thing about the IMF. If you had to economize and remove something from your essay, yeah, you probably could remove that, okay? All right, so, okay, now to be totally honest with you, I didn't really understand your question one. I'm going to read it aloud to see if maybe I can make sense of it like this. Would the introduction be more concise if the last sentence was like ... drawbacks, as this essay will outline, using examples from, or drawbacks, as this essay will outline? Oh, yeah, you could do that. You don't have to say using examples from. I mean, it's not absolutely necessary. So if you were to write it, yeah, you could write it like this. Do you have an option of not writing at all? Well, like I said, sure, you could. All right. If you have time to include it, then please, feel free to do so. All right, so let's take a look at what you actually wrote. This is the one about weddings. Okay. Throughout the world, people face the decision of whether to expend a considerable amount of money on a wedding party or save this capital. While some argue that the celebration of a marriage is an occasion important enough to justify an extravagant expenditure, I strongly feel that the advantages of doing so do not overcome the drawbacks. Okay, I don't like the word overcome. Overcome has a different meaning, so here I think outweigh would be better. I realize that it's the same word as is shown here. It's not a tragedy. I mean, the rest of the sentence is reworded, so even if you do use a word from the prompt, it's not the end of the world. This essay will discuss both points using examples from the University of Arizona and the IMF to demonstrate points and support arguments. So could you have left this out? Like I said, I mean, if you have an option between really developing your body paragraphs or including this, then I would say develop your body paragraphs and leave this sentence out. Let's look at the body paragraphs, though. There is ample evidence that weddings are amongst the greatest and most luxurious social events individuals experience during their lives. The central reason behind this is that people want to render the party memorable not only to themselves, but also to their relatives and friends, which may be beneficial from a social perspective. This viewpoint was echoed by a recent research, get rid of A in front of research, by the University of Arizona that demonstrated that 35% of American women admitted that they could eventually resort to a bank loan to pay for their wedding reception. Therefore, it is reasonable to state that many people value this event tremendously. Okay, you were off to a really good start with this paragraph, but somewhere along the way, I think you lost it. So, you said here that it's beneficial from a social perspective, and then I expected you to say what kind of benefits a person gains from an expensive wedding. That's what I was expecting to see, because remember, it talks about the benefits of an expensive wedding. Instead of talking about what a person gains from this, from a social perspective, to use your expression, you didn't say that. Instead, you said that 35% of American women would take out a loan. And this just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with the previous sentence, and it's also not a benefit. I mean, taking out a loan is definitely not a benefit, so I don't understand the reason for that sentence at all, okay? So, therefore, it is reasonable to state that many people value this event tremendously. Yeah, there's no question about whether they value it tremendously. The question is, what benefits do they gain from spending a lot of money? And that is a question you haven't answered. You started to, but then you stopped. Conversely, although there is a case for those opting to invest an important amount of capital on a wedding, many advocate that this is economically unwise nowadays. This is largely because financial resources could be applied to more crucial sectors of life, such as housing. For example, an extensive study by IMF recently showed that over 65% of young married couples are far from being able to afford to buy their first house. It also must not be forgotten that real estate prices are at an all-time high in Europe. Thus, it is possible to state beyond doubt that it is rational to save funds for such fundamental needs. Okay, so let's talk about this now. This was fine, but I don't really understand how this sentence here about the real estate prices in Europe, how that helps you. It really doesn't. It's not necessary. It's just a superfluous sentence that doesn't follow the logic of this paragraph, okay? So let's finish with your conclusion, and then I'll tell you some more kind of holistic feedback here. To conclude, even though some people see differently, I firmly believe that allocating resources to be used for other objectives in life have far more benefits than expending funds on weddings. It is also predicted that saving financial resources for other purposes rather than social events will increasingly grow in importance in the future. All right, that's fine. So let's talk about this essay a little bit more in terms of task achievement again. What did you say are the benefits here? You said that it's beneficial from a social perspective, right? And that people value this wedding. Okay, great. Here you said that it's unwise to spend money because you could spend it on other crucial sectors in life. So those are your central ideas, and they're clear. And then you use the example of a house. So let's look now at the task and what it asks you to cover. It says the benefits of weddings and the disadvantages. So my question to you is, did you give me benefits and disadvantages, or did you just give me an advantage or a benefit and a disadvantage? My sense here, reading it a couple or even a third time, is that you really only gave me one advantage and one disadvantage, okay? And this one was not even really explored fully because you went off into a tangent someplace else. This one, you should have extended further. You should have said what maybe some other disadvantages are as well. So that's my sense here, that you kind of covered this, but you kind of didn't. So again, your lowest score here will most likely be in task achievement. When it says benefits, you have to think about at least two. Disadvantages, the same thing. So that, for me, is the problem here, and I already explained what happened here. Obviously the grammar and the vocabulary were really, really nicely controlled, really well done there, but it's the task achievement, and even I venture to say the coherence and cohesion, because I think that that's what's happening here as well. Like, there's not a logical progression of your ideas, and so you might have an examiner take you off some points for that as well. All right, let's take a look now at your cover letter. I like that you did this. Look at that. Reasons, plural. Okay, good. And wow, good, good. Okay, so if that helps you, then great. Dear Sir, Madam, I am writing this cover letter in response to the advert for Junior Front-End Web Developer in Jobs Finder newspaper dated this. I am pleased to attach herewith my resume for your kind consideration. You don't need that comma. All right, get rid of it. Allow me to elaborate on why I think this particular job would fit my profile and why hiring me would be an asset for the company. The central reason is twofold. Firstly, my coding skills set background is solid, as my resume can support. Secondly, I consider myself immensely self-motivated and understand this is of paramount importance for dynamic group activities such as web development. I have done some online research before applying for the job position, and your company policies in terms of software engineering absolutely astonished me, as I am hugely enthusiastic about the theme. In addition, your company has a great plan for career progression, which is a priority for me. As for previous experience not in analogous, in a similar position, you want to say, I would like to mention my co-op year during college, during the last 2 terms of college, makes more sense, when I worked as a web developer at WebWise Incorporated, another remarkable company in the field of information technology. Please feel free to check my CV for further information. I look forward to hearing from you. Yours faithfully. All right, that's great. I really like this. That was very, very well done. I think that your notes here, they must have helped you, because you did a really good job with this. Now, what I'm going to suggest to you is what you did here with the capitalization of S is what you should have done here, okay? So great job with your letter. I think we already spent a lot of time talking about your task 2, so you know what the areas that you have to work on are, okay? Go ahead and get to it then, Romulo, and let's see what you write for your next set. Good luck.